Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome back to Fallout 76. So today we are heading back into Skyline Valley to look at 5 more cool spots to build your next camp. And we're moving a bit more towards the centre of the new region at this point. So I've got some cool spots coming up. And we're going to do that terrible thing that YouTubers sometimes do and suggest that you stick around for the last one because it's particularly interesting, I think. So, without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, so location number 1, we are right at the top of Skyline Valley here, and this is a good spot if you want to build something small but close to the new events, particularly dangerous pastime spawns. So this is where we are on the map, just in between these 3 locations in the northwest corner here. This is about as far north as we can go before we start actually leaving Skyline Valley, and we are just above the road here. So, quite a cool spot. It's not as flat as I might like, but very, very convenient for the new events if you do want to be conveniently placed for those. As we can see, sort of, it's undulating a bit on the ground here. Not ideal sort of angle for getting a look at that from up here, but on the other hand, you can see the area, so swings and roundabouts. But if you want to build something on the smaller side, you can definitely find sort of a hollow in the ground or something like that will work quite nicely to drop a some kind of home that you can build in there. Or maybe even something larger if you want to do that, though I'd personally lean away. But in terms of a good spot on the northern edge that is very, very conveniently located for those new events, then this is a pretty solid spot. Definitely got some Savage Divide vibes sort of going on here, which is about what you'd expect given this is where the 2 zones start to meet. Incidentally, I'm on a custom world here, so the weather's set to always clear, which is why we're not seeing quite so much of the sort of Skyline Valley tint here. It's normally a bit redder than it currently appears, which is kind of true of all of the following locations because, I wanted to make sure you can actually see what we're looking at as much as possible. Trees notwithstanding. But yeah, this is a decent spot for probably a small build, maybe one on multiple levels. You can do some interesting stuff there. And yeah, definitely convenient if you want to be near those events. Okay, moving a little further south for spot number 2. This one's quite cool, getting under the trees a bit here. It's kind of a theme of Skyline, but we are kind of near the trading post. We've got a nice little bit of flat ground, certainly towards the back there anyway. As you can see from the map, here we are, just by the road over near the trading post. If we sort of zoom in a little bit, you'll see that we're actually just north of the road. Actually, my player marker is more accurate than the camp one, as it often is. But we're a little bit up to the north there. This whole sort of stretch running north from where we are here towards where the road sort of starts arcing back towards the west there, maybe even a little further up, has a number of open-ish flat spots on it that are really quite cool for building on, and yeah, good location. The trading post, incidentally, which is just up the cliff there, is very similar to the one at Nuke World, if you haven't been there yet. It's got similar sort of facilities, so yeah, if you want to use workbenches or legendary exchange machines, things like that, it's quite convenient for that. Sort of towards the bottom left corner of the shot here, the ground kind of falls away a little bit. So you kind of want to be a little bit back from that, but under the trees we've got decent flat areas. We do have, as you can kind of see in the bottom corner there, floating around, the occasional bloatfly and other critter. Normally, when it comes to building camps, I would advise not putting turrets in camps because they're basically a waste of budget most of the time. Camps only get attacked when there is a player present and you can usually defend it yourself then. But in the case of Skyline Valley, there's lots of little critters around and a lot of sort of random enemy spawns in a relatively kind of dense spread across the area, so they're a bit more handy for kind of dealing with the odd bloatfly or inconvenience that might wander around. And also kind of as an early warning system as well. So, just something to think about. Maybe don't overdo it, but 1 or 2 might be handy. As you can see here, we've got a decent bit of flat ground. It does look kind of dead-ish, or dying, over here. Definitely a bit of a not a desert yet, but it will be soon vibe as a result of the storm above. And obviously, we are starting to move towards the centre of the zone and the heart of the storm here, so if I didn't have clear weather on, it would be much, much, much redder. You get a look at that sort of vibe later on, so stick around for that one. But yeah, decent flat ground, really close to the trading post, and there's a whole bunch of good spots sort of running north from here that are worth having to sort of wander around and picking where you like. But definitely like this little spot myself. Might have to visit this before too much longer. Okay, so number 3 is another island. In case we didn't get enough of them last time, I think we had about 3 islands in the last video, but here's another one if you didn't like any of those, or didn't like the location, or I don't know, maybe this one just fits the bill a little better. This one is right down at the south of the map. So here we go, all the way down at the bottom, or almost all the way down at the bottom. Again, the camp markers are a little bit off from where we actually are. If we zoom in, you can see the island's actually visible on the map there. We're actually smack in the middle of it. And yeah, it's a little different to some of the others. Haven't got quite the same issues as, say, having a Yaogwai in the middle of it, like one of the others did. It does have its own issues, of course, though, as well. Partly down to the location in between the motel there and the gas well. It's quite far from anywhere else, so there is that to bear in mind. Over on the western side, there are reliably a lot of lost that spawn, new enemies, so you are quite likely to wind up having to deal with those every time you log in, and probably when you come back from an extended trip as well, so there is that drawback to consider. On the plus side, it's pretty flat. It's a little bit larger than some of the ones we looked at last time, although certainly not the largest one. The whole island pretty much fits quite nicely inside the build area, along with a good chunk of the water around it as well, so you can really make use of the island and the water and kind of have a bit of a moat going on if you want, or you can use it to place sort of wood purifiers or whatever you like down and take advantage of that. So it's quite cool in that regard. I'm getting colourful and lots of pretty reds and things. I definitely like the look of this spot. Again, the lost on the right there, maybe not quite ideal, but it is a good spot visually, and yeah, one I think I might be coming back to. There's also, incidentally, a tiny little gubbin device machine thingamajig sticking out the ground on this island. Doesn't seem to stop you placing your camp unit, as we can see, but whether or not it might have issues at some point on down the line, I don't know, because it may have a function, that thing, and Bethesda may change something, so something to bear in mind for the future, but for now, it's an option. So, heading down a little bit further to the south, this is kind of a bit of a cheat on my part, I guess, here. As this is more of a whole region that is worth exploring and having a look at, seeing if you find somewhere you like. We're right at the very, very south edge of the map here, so miles from anywhere. But this whole area along the south edge that kind of stretches from the river there all the way out towards the edge of the zone here has lots of little spots. Some of them are flat enough to build something a decent size in, some you're going to have to stay more compact, but there are a lot of little spots with lots of detail, lots of colour, vibrant areas under the trees, and they are quite pretty. One thing that is perhaps worth considering, other than finding a large enough, flat enough area to kind of meet your needs, whatever those might be, is that the grass is pretty long here, which means when you start building stuff, it's going to get bulldozed. So you're going to have really, really short kind of green texture underneath, but not the proper grass in large portions of your camp, depending on what you build and stuff anyway. So it's something you might want to factor into your deliberations, but you do get a really, really gorgeous, colourful area. I chose this spot to have a look at because we can actually sort of see some more open ground, mostly through the trees, as the camera pans behind the trees, but it's definitely a really, really pretty spot. If you want to go for that hermit lifestyle and really be away from where everybody else is, have relatively few people stumbling across you, for whatever reason, then this is a really good place to kind of consider finding that sort of hermit's camp location. Like the whole south end of the map here really is, and yeah. Does mean you're going to have some very long fast travels further up to other areas, but it is a very, very striking, very, very pretty area with lots of potential spots in it to build your own little slice of, well, not quite Eden, but post-apocalypse perhaps, so definitely worth a little look around. Okay, and last but not least, camp spot number 5. This one, well, it's not going to look like this if you come here in adventure mode, to say the least. We are in quite an interesting spot and a very moody one here. So, there we go. Back smack in the middle, and this is about as close as you can practically get and still have flat ground and a cool location near Dark Hollow Manor, and really in the centre of the storm here. And as we'll see in a minute, it really does have that vibe. And yeah, we have pretty flat ground here, just north of the trading post, basically the point where north from the trading post and east from the manor meet. That's where we are. And this is what it looks like with the weather turned back on. It's gloomy. This, by the way, is around about midday, so this is as bright as it gets. If you're here at night, it gets very, very dark. So yeah, if you're looking for a spooky kind of Skyline Valley location to build, this will do it. Most of these trees are not going to bulldoze. So definitely something to bear in mind there. You're going to have to work around that. But it is flat, it's dark and atmospheric, and if you really want to go in for a camp that has that vibe, then this is definitely somewhere I would recommend considering. As I say, just head to the trading post and spin around and head up north. From there, you'll find flat ground and very, very atmospheric dark ground as well. But it's hard to see here at night, to tell you that much. Most of the game doesn't really struggle with really dark nights. This spot, I think perhaps it might. I think I want to build here myself at some point fairly soon and do something hopefully quite interesting and spooky with it. But be good for Halloween as well. Definitely a cool spot. So there we go, 5 cool camp spots to check out in Skyline Valley. Moving down the middle a little bit here. Still plenty of the region left to look at for really cool spots, so we're going to explore that in subsequent videos. So if you haven't already, do hit likes, subs and notification bells, and then you'll keep up to date with this series and all my other Fallout uploads, of which there are many, including camp builds like this shiny one here, which is where I'm currently hanging out. Quite happy with how this came out. The algae is a bit of an issue though. If you did like this video, then down below we've got social media links, merch store, channel memberships, all that good stuff. If you want to support the channel that way, I hugely appreciate it. Really, really helps out. Massive thank you to everyone who's done that already. And if you get a chance to join us for live streams as well, we're playing Fallout 76, we're playing Fallout 4, and we're playing a little bit of Stalker at the moment, and yeah, play other bits and pieces on the side as well. So if you get a chance to join us for live streams, it's a good time. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.